You were not meant to be a slave to the grind. You were not meant to trade your life force for money. You can escape gravity. You can unlock your life. You got this. Let's go.
Hello and welcome to Unlock Your Life. I'm your host, Jennings Smith. Glad you're here today because we have a phenomenal show. Put a lot of thought into this one and a lot of experience in coaching distilled into one data point, essentially. And that is, why do some people get results and some people don't? Because I've noticed with coaching that there's a lot of people that they say the right things, they have the motivation, they have the passion, they have the drive, they have the exuberance, and yet for whatever reason, they're not getting the results that they want. They're not getting it done. And I'm thinking back in my experience where I had a guy who messaged me, I want to have a different life. I want to have the money. I want to have the passive income. I want to have the houses, the cars, right? I want to unlock my life. I want to unchain myself from my job. I'm not happy and just so passionate, so driven, or so I thought. And yet when he got into the mentoring program and it was time to put in the work and the rubber met the road, he wasn't there. He didn't show up, and a few months later he was gone. He flaked out and got another guy. Same sort of thing. Very, very, very charismatic person, interesting to talk to, fun guy, wanted to get involved in multifamily, wanted to make a career change, started and stopped. And every few months he would call me up, want to have a long conversation. I'd have these conversations, pouring out my heart, trying to help this guy, and yet he would not do anything. He would not put in the work. He wanted to talk about it. He wanted to feel it. He wanted to imagine he was on the track and have the plan, and yet the results just weren't there. And I think about, in the world of social media, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, there's these motivational posts. There's motivational videos. They got the rising and falling music in the background, and they've got the guy speaking and the crescendo of his voice rising up, and you can feel this emotion in yourself of, yes, I'm going to do this. I'm going to conquer my demons. I'm going to achieve my goals. I'm going to be a multimillionaire. I'm going to live my life of my dreams, or whatever you're thinking. And it makes you feel really good. And those posts are super popular. They get millions of views, thousands of likes. When I post stuff in my Facebook groups where it's just a picture with a motivational quote, those posts get a lot of engagement. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I enjoy that kind of thing as well sometimes. However, they can be dangerous. Lois Brown, who wrote a book, Psychology on Motivation, she asserts that motivational quotes and videos and this sort of thing, they make us feel as though we have accomplished our goal. They make us feel, and they generate the same emotions in our reward centers in our brains as if we had actually done that. And I think about that. You're dreaming about this new business that you're going to start, or you're dreaming about making $50,000 a month in passive income, and you're planning it out and you're doing all this stuff and you're feeling great about it. And it's almost like you've accomplished it, and yet you haven't, right? Reality sets in, and that feeling fades because it isn't real. And so the reason that this can be a vicious loop is because we watch these motivational videos, we watch these motivational quotes, we get fired up, we get passionate, and we generate this feeling. Then we maybe make a plan, then we don't execute on the plan, and then we get depressed, and so then we need to get fired up again, and we get motivated again, and we just go in this cycle instead of actually getting anything done. And I'm questioning, why does this not work? Because obviously mindset is important. Obviously telling ourselves that we can do it and having a positive mindset and being motivated and wanting to accomplish things is important, right? Our thoughts kind of pull us forward into our future and the actions that we take. But why do some achieve results and some just talk? Some just feel? I propose to you that it is emotion-led. Emotions are the enemy. Emotions lie to you. Feelings lie to you. Generating a feeling, generating an emotion to get yourself in a state where you can take an action is a very, very short-lived path. It's not sustainable. A few months ago, well, maybe 8 months ago, I was approached with a deal, and it was a bunch of apartments that were built as townhomes, and they could be sectioned off and sold as condos, and we could buy them for like $80,000 a unit and sell them for $150,000 a unit, maybe $140,000 a unit. But we could make a lot of money, right? All we had to do is just rezone it and sell off these condos and make great money. So I'm interested. However, I have a lot going on, right? I have a couple projects going off the rails. They're a little bit tough on cash flow. I'm trying to straighten some things out with my management company, and it is not the right timing. And so I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed with that. And then we find out, we actually can't subdivide these. We can't sell these off as townhomes. And so this is not going to work, your initial business plan. And that threw me for a loop, and I'm already overwhelmed. I'm already got a lot of other things going on. I already don't really want to mess with this project because I'm feeling overwhelmed. And so I say, you know what? I'm going to pass on it. I'm going to pass on it. Even though we could have operated that as apartments and it was still a good deal. And even though I could have dug into the data of what would it look like just to operate it strictly as an apartment complex, value add, renovate, turn them into nice luxury apartments, and sell it off or refinance it. But I didn't do any of that because my feelings were getting the best of me. My emotions were boiling up, and I didn't want to take on more stress. I didn't want to take on more pressure. I didn't want to take on any more bad feelings. And so I could have bought it for $3.2 million. I passed the deal on to my buddy. He closed it. It's now worth $7 million, right? So I lost $3.8 million by listening to my feelings. And when you rely on feeling good, when you rely on, I'm not going to do things unless I'm motivated, I'm going to do things until they start to feel bad, you're always going to stop. Because life is always ups and downs. It's always a roller coaster. What goes up must come down. And you're going to get hit in the mouth. Things are going to go badly. Partners are going to betray you. Things are going to go over budget. There's going to be legal battles. There's going to be, anytime you try to do something significant, there will be opposition. Every culture, there is this saying, like the tallest poppy gets cut down. The crabs in the bucket. One crab tries to crawl out. All the other crabs are pulling it down. Stay in line. Don't do anything extraordinary or you're going to get targeted. Well, that's true because it's hard to do significant and phenomenal things. And when things get too hard, you sell out on that dream, right? Because that dream was simply emotion led. And when those emotions and feelings aren't good anymore, then what's the point, right? Because you were just pursuing that high. You were just pursuing that emotional feeling. And when that price becomes too steep and it feels too uncomfortable and it feels too bad and it's too hard, you sell out. You stop that dream. Tell a story right now. 63 units. This was one of the first deals I ever did. 63 units in Goose Creek, South Carolina, outside of Charleston. And I will say I was in a fragile state emotionally. I was persistent, but I was in a fragile state. I had closed one deal, a 12 unit, that was $250,000. And I had another deal, 18 unit under contract for $750,000 that a partner was coming in and he was providing the whole down payment and it hadn't closed yet. But this was my first big boy deal. This was like $5 million deal, 63 units, one of those life-changing deals. And we were at a conference with one of my mentors and we saw this deal and we thought, man, this deal might work with his business model. This might be something that he wants to do. And so let me package it up and see if he'll partner with me because I need help getting the loan. I'm definitely going to need help raising the down payment. I needed $1.2 million for the down payment. And I didn't have that. I didn't have anywhere near that. And I wasn't going to qualify for this loan without definitely getting some help. So I brought the deal to him and he really did like it. He was interested and we looked into it. We started going back and forth with offerings with the seller. And I'm getting my hopes up. I mean, I'm getting like very, very, very emotionally tied to this deal. And I'm already thinking about, wow, if I add another 63 units to my portfolio, that's going to like triple what I already have. And I'm going to be able to get a decent amount of equity in this deal. And I'm going to be able to make cash flow. I'll get $5,000-$10,000 a month in passive cash flow. I'm going to sell this thing and make $1 million someday. Like, this is going to be great. And this is also going to be the doorway to many, many more deals that I can close. So emotionally, I was very, very invested in this deal. And through the negotiations, we find out that we can't come to terms on the price with the seller. We're $200,000 off and can't make it work. They could make it work if we came up, but my partner, the one with the money and the ability to get the loan, doesn't want to pay that price. And so the deal was dead. And I was down in the dumps, and I called the broker and said, hey, we're going to have to pass. We're going to have to bow out. We're not going to be able to do this. And this was off market, right? It hadn't gone to the market yet. And he's like, all right, well, okay. There's a couple other groups I know that are going to be interested. And I'm like, oh, I know. And part of me just wanted to quit right there, right? I wanted to quit. I wanted to throw in the towel because this feels so bad that I don't want to do this again. I don't want to go through this again. I don't want to keep trying and keep getting kicked in the gut. Because even if we had gotten it under contract, that doesn't mean it's closed, right? We don't have the money raised, and there's a long way getting the loan. There's a long ways to go. But I decided not to be fragile in that moment. And I got creative, and I kept my feet moving, and I kept swinging. And I go back to the guys that helped us do the 18 unit, and I thought, hey, what do you think about this deal? It's probably trash because this other guy thinks it's trash, but what do you think? And they look at it and they're like, no, I think this looks like a really good deal. They fly down, they walk the property. They said, yeah, we love it. Let's get it under contract. So boom, we get it under contract. And there were more struggles to get that thing closed. But had I followed my emotions like I had in the other deal, right, where I'd been like, oh, this is too hard. This is terrible. I got so close and my hopes were dashed. I don't want to go through that again. If I hadn't been willing to walk through that again and again and again, then I wouldn't have gotten the results that I have today, which is now, 1,000 unit portfolio, 500 self-storage units, and got more under contract, closing more every year. That would not have happened, right? And so the key, the point, the crux of the message is consistent action applied over time will yield results. Consistent action applied over time will yield results, and we don't know when those results are going to happen, right? That's the hard part about it. It could be a week, it could be a month, it could be a year, it could be longer. And how long you're willing to beat against that door before it opens, a lot of that dictates success. And the tough thing is sometimes you're beating on the wrong door. Sometimes that door will never open. Sometimes you're doing it in a different way or the wrong way, and you've got to switch or change tactics, right? It's not a simple formula always, right? We know this. But if the decision has been made, right? If you've made this decision, I will do this. I will achieve this. I will quit my job. I will get into this investment. I will start a new business. I will, whatever you're working on, whatever goal you have in mind. If you have made that decision emotionless, then that event has happened. It's happened and life has to catch up to it. Time has to catch up to it. And I'm going to go through the journey of achievement and the 6 steps of the process of that consistent action applied over time, because it doesn't look like a straight, nice, pretty road. Sometimes it's all squiggly and all over the place. So I got another guy in the deal room, which is my mentoring program, and he's been in for a while. I met him, I don't know, maybe a year and a half ago, and he was messaging me, and he was very, he wasn't emotional, wasn't riled up. He was driven, right? He wanted to achieve his goals. He wanted to close a multifamily apartment, but he wasn't all over the map, wild emotional swings. And he was working with a wealthier individual. And every time he found something, this wealthy individual was pretty much shutting it down. It wasn't a good deal for this reason. The occupancy wasn't high enough. The value add wasn't there. They were paying too much. We needed to get a cheaper pricing. We need to get better terms. I don't want to put that much cash in, or whatever. There was always a reason why this guy would not close a deal. And I ended up talking with him and saying, you might need to find a new partner. I mean, this guy doesn't really seem to like real estate, because I've personally seen him pass over a couple really good deals, and he just might be too smart for his own good, or maybe he's smarter than me. I don't know, but he doesn't seem to be too motivated to make anything happen with you. And I mean, that's the thing, right? He was in a different place. This guy's got hundreds of millions of dollars sitting in the bank. Like, he's not super motivated to be taking risks and buying properties and pushing forward or working too hard even. And so this guy, though, he could have gotten discouraged, right? He'd gone through a lot of emotional highs and lows, bringing him deal after deal, getting shut down. And this was his ticket. This was someone he had a relationship with. This was somebody that could make what he wanted to happen. He could bring the down payments. He could sponsor these loans. Like, this was his guy. And he had to start over. He had to find a different guy. He had to find a different sponsor. He had to find different investors. He had to find the money in a different way. And yet, he didn't stop, right? Persistent action over time, applied over time. And just last week, he closed a 65-unit apartment complex, his first deal. Been working on it a year and a half. But, a 65-unit apartment deal, the average 65-unit apartment deal is $4 million. You got an $80,000 acquisition fee, which is a fee you get paid up front at closing. You've got $100,000 a year in passive income cash flow. You've got 2% per year asset management fee. You've got value add of raising rents and paying your equity down that's worth $1 to $2 million down the road at least. And so, was it worth it for struggling for a year or year and a half to make something like that happen? It was to him. And that door is kicked open now, right? He's got a deal under his belt. He's made traction. He's proven to himself that the dream had already been made. The event had already happened. Now life was just catching up to his actions. But persistent action over time is what yielded that result. Persistence. Showing up with 95% effort 10% of the time does not work. I need to get fired up. I need to get motivated. No, you don't. That's not going to work. These spurts of energy, these spurts of action, they're short-lived. They're a flash in the pan, right? That's where that's saying. It's just boom. It's there. It burns brightly and then it burns out, right? I want to be a bonfire. And a bonfire starts small. A bonfire starts with a few twigs. A bonfire starts with a little piece of newspaper, a few twigs, and you just add log after log after log until you have a massive, sustainable fire that will keep burning for hours and hours or even overnight without even adding any more wood to it. And then as soon as you're ready to add more wood, it'll keep on burning, right? I don't want to be the powder keg that's an explosion of action, but then there's nothing left. There's nothing there. There's nothing to show for it, right? It's not a sustainable method. And I lived this, right? In 2017, maybe 18, I bought a online multifamily course and I started studying it and I couldn't do it much, right? I'm talking 10% effort, but I kept showing up. I kept going through the course. I kept getting online. I kept looking for deals. I kept connecting with brokers. I kept making pitch decks. I kept meeting with investors. And slowly, I got to where I wanted to be. And I closed my first deal. And I closed my first deal 2 years later. It didn't have to take that long. But where I was at with running a business and my wife and kids and everything I had going on, that's all I could do. But it didn't stop, right? That consistent action over time led to the result. And once I closed that deal, I was able to close the 18-unit deal. And that gave me that anti-fragile ability to close that 63-unit and keep on going to where we are now. If you take the action consistently, it will come. Okay, so I'm going to tell you about the 6-step journey of achievement. The journey of achieving anything and kind of how I've seen it work in my life, in my mentee's life, and I've seen it work in different ways, right? So I'm going to use the example of social media, right? Back in February, I got really serious about social media, and I'm on a journey of achievement with social media. Step 1 is it's exciting, right? It's exciting. I'm going to buy an apartment. I'm going to build a following online. I see how powerful it is. I see how important social media can be with my reach. I see how important buying an apartment could be for my retirement and my kids' college and whatever else I want to do and passive income. It's exciting. You see the reward. And that alone is enough for some people. And they just sit there right in the exciting stage and they just keep thinking about it and planning it and talking about it and not doing it. Because if they don't do it, then they can't fail, right? And they just want to think about it. They just want to generate those positive emotions because that's fun. Okay? But that's step 1 on the journey of achievement is it's exciting. Step 2, it becomes time consuming and can become stressful, right? Where you realize, wow, this is a lot of work. You get into it and you realize I underestimated the amount of activity, action, time, everything that this is going to take, right? You've underestimated that and it becomes really time consuming and stressful. And at every point you can quit, right? So from step 1 to step 2, you go from exciting to the time consuming, stressful phase. And with social, it's like, whoa, if I want to post 7 videos a week, 1 per day on every platform, I've got to make them, I've got to post them, I've got to think of new content, and that's still not even where I need to be. I need to be set, 3 or 4 times per day on every platform, on 7 platforms. This is a full-time job. And you get that with multifamily. People jump in and they realize, I've got to build a network. I've got to talk to brokers. I've got to talk to investors. I've got to search for deals. I've got to underwrite deals. I've got to learn how to underwrite. I got to go through courses. I got to study this stuff. Like, I have to become an expert. To make millions of dollars, I've got to become an expert in something, right? To leverage a social platform and make millions of dollars or have more influence or be able to reach more people, I'm going to have to become an expert at it. I'm going to have to put in the work. My content's going to have to get better. Okay, so this can be really, really stressful and time consuming. Then it gets expensive, right? This is where it gets expensive. And this is really where a lot of people quit. Because you realize to get where I'm going to go, I really have to make investments. I have to make investments. I've got to make investments in education. I've got to make investments in coaching. I've got to make investments in tools, processes, systems, employees, personal assistants, team members, partners, whatever. But I've got to make serious investments or I am not going to get where I want to go. So with multifamily, it was like, I've got to put money down on these deals. I've got to buy a course. I've got to study this. I've got to go to a conference. I've got to pay $5,000 to go to a conference. I've got to make a partnership. I'm going to have to split all my equity because if I don't, I'm never going to get all this stuff done. So I'm going to have to find a partner to do this stuff with. And it got really, really expensive. And this is another for where people aren't willing to invest in themselves. And I think the biggest reason why people aren't willing to invest in themselves is because deep down they think or they know that they're going to quit. They know that they're going to give up. They know when it gets too hard or it gets too rough or it's not worth it to feel these emotions and to go through this pain and turmoil, they're going to sell out. And so they don't want to invest. They don't want to lose that money because then they'll really feel stupid. And it's just a lack of belief in your own ability to win. I know that's a little harsh, but that's where I see a lot of people flake out is out in step 3 when it gets expensive. With social media, I had to hire a full-time executive assistant to help me start running my life. And one of her biggest roles is this social media stuff. And not only that, we got to hire website consultants. We got to hire a podcasting company at $1,200 a month, to produce our podcast and push it on all the platforms. We've got to hire VAs to create all this content and chop it up and put the captions on it. And I've got to pay her to post all this stuff and on and on and on and on. And it got really expensive really quick. If you follow Alex Hormozi, they're spending $40,000 a month pushing the social. So it's a cost, right? It's an investment. But on the journey of achievement, to achieve something great, you cannot expect there to be no expenses, to be no investment, to be nothing that hurts, right? So it's something to expect and accept. Step 4, you become consistent. You become consistent. Right? You've invested in your teams, you've invested in yourself, you're doing it consistently, and you're doing it again and again and again and again, and you're almost there. You're almost there. This is where I am right now with social I'm a little beyond this, but I got consistent with it and posting and creating content. I got consistent with real estate, with talking with brokers, with building my Facebook group that brought me a lot of deal flow and investor flow. I got really, really consistent with it. And that can be personally or it can be your team, depending on your level of time and money and resources you have available. But you've got to be consistent with it. Step 4. And then step 5, it gets really frustrating. It gets really frustrating because you're now putting all this time, you've put in all this effort. It's been stressful. It's been expensive. You've been consistent with it. You're doing the work and you're not getting the results. You're still not getting the results. And that's where the gold is, because that's where 95% of people quit. They just say, this doesn't work. This is too hard. I'm going to stop. So even if you make it through all those 5 steps, the frustrating phase is difficult. It's frustrating to make content and have nobody listen to it. It's frustrating to spend all this time and money and effort and not see results. It's frustrating to call broker and get no deals, to underwrite deal after deal after deal and nothing pencils out. It's frustrating to call investor after investor after investor and have them say no to your deal. It's frustrating to have a deal be this close to closing and fall off the table. It's frustrating. It's going to happen to you. This is where that emotions lie. Emotions hurt you. Emotions are the enemy, where I just can't handle going through this pain. I can't, so I'm just not going to do it anymore. I can't. And there's a lot of people that feel that way. You may feel that way. You got to be honest with yourself, because it's real. Emotions are real. And changing the thoughts around those emotions is the only way to dictate a new emotion. But allowing these emotions to rule you on the high end or the low end is where I see people that they play the game, they sound great, but they do not generate results. Whereas the steady eddies, the people that are just putting in the work day in, day out, and they're not getting frustrated, they're not letting it get to them, they get to level 6 on the journey of achievement. So we've got exciting. Level 1, it's exciting. Level 2, it gets time consuming and stressful. You're learning all this stuff. Number 3, it gets expensive as you realize I've got to make more commitments to this, time commitments, money commitments, personnel commitments. Number 4, you get consistent with it. Finally, you've got your processes, systems, and you're being consistent. Number 5, it's frustrating because you're not getting the results. And 6, it becomes rewarding. It becomes rewarding. You start to see glimmers. You get something under contract. Something does pencil out. You close your first deal, small deal, but you know it's going to lead to more. You generate a video that gets more than 10 likes. We had a video go somewhat viral the other day. It had 2.2 million views. It had a 3-point-something million views across all platforms. Like, that's cool, right? I've got tons of people now coming into my Facebook group. I've got tons of people reaching out to me, sending me messages, wanting to connect with me. I've got 2,000-3,000 people a week downloading my podcast. I'm starting to get rewarding results because I've pushed through those 5 levels. And then I'm going to start over, right? Because I want to get to the next level. It's exciting. I'm kind of back in the exciting phase, rewarding, exciting. And I'm going to have to go through the next iteration of, well, what's it look like to build a 5,000 unit portfolio? What kind of commitments do I have to make to do that? What kind of time, how do I get better enough to do that? What kind of expensive investments am I going to have to make to do that? How consistent am I going to have to be to get to that next level? Same thing with social, same thing with anything. Fitness, anything, starting a business and then getting to the next level of that business. It's levels on levels, guys. And we're consistently and constantly going through these 6 layers on the journey of achievement. So I'm going to go through them one more time and then we're going to bounce for today. Number 1 level is just exciting. Most people just live there. They never get past that level. Then it becomes time-consuming, stressful. Number 3, it becomes expensive. Number 4, you get consistent. Number 5, you get frustrated. Number 6, you get rewarded, and you start over on level 1 again on the next level. All right, guys. Well, that's what we got today. I appreciate you tuning in. If this podcast means something to you, if you've enjoyed it, I would love to see a review on Apple or Stitcher or wherever you listen. I read those reviews. If you want to connect with me, shoot me a message. I try to respond to all my DMs and personally. It's not an assistant, it's me. So if you want to connect and if you are interested in multifamily and investments in that, then jump in my Facebook group, My First Million in Multifamily. But appreciate you guys. Have a great week. And don't forget to unlock your life. Peace.
This is the podcastfactory.com.